Hello, my name is Von Steinstra. I'm the president of the China Speakers Bureau, and we speak today with Zhang Lijia, author of the well-received book, novel on prostitution, Lotus. It has appeared in January 2017, and she has become an expert on how prostitution works and in the social mixture in China. One of the major players in that field is, of course, the government. Government is important than anything in China, but also for prostitution, where since 1949 the government has been trying to ban prostitution. While it was before that more or less condoned, it's now officially banned. Now, Zhang Lijia, what kind of factors? What kind of welcome to this hangout? What
Thank
kind
you.
of what kind of effect has the attitude of the government on the women in prostitution?
Well, the prostitution is illegal, and the government always looks at the issue through the lens of a crime, which is why the authorities always launch this crackdown campaign from time to time as sort of a social discipline, but it hasn't worked. Maybe I should give a little bit of history. You know, there were prostitution. In fact, my grandmother was one of the sex workers before 1949. And after the Chinese Communist Party took over in 1949, all the brothels were shut, sex workers were reformed. And it almost more or less vanished until the reform era, with relaxed social control, growing wealth, and China's growing tendency towards hedonism.
Hey, hold on, Lee. Hold on. Between 1949 and the reform area, there was no prostitution then.
Yes, it's impossible. There was some form of prostitution, for example, in exchange of favor for the opportunities to stay in the city or get a food ration. But generally speaking, it was wiped up. And the prostitution come back in the reform era, and in fact, come back in a spectacular fashion. It says sex industry has become the fastest growing industry in China.
Yeah, well, you estimate it's about 10 million women who are not currently working in this industry.
Least, yes.
And what you see in the media is the government arresting these women in large numbers. What's happening to the men who make use of the prostitutes? Are the men also arrested? Is it also illegal for men to participate in it?
So all aspects of prostitution, soliciting, selling, or buying are all legal. You see women are being arrested. The clients are also arrested. But men and women, well, the prostitutes, mostly women, do get, the clients often being let off quite easily. So they are mostly dealt with administrative law instead of criminal law. Meaning punishable by fines or detention. But for serious offenders or repeated offenders, they can be sent to this custody and education center or even to the labor camps for up to 2 years.
So, and what do you think should happen? Like, banning prostitution was one of the major things of the Communist Party, and it has become a little bit of a joke now by cracking down on women only. What should change in the current policies to make life for women easier?
Right. Okay. I think it should be decriminalized. One thing I should point out is criminal law can be used when there's involvement of the third party, for example, organizing the sale of sex or pimping. But for the sex workers, you know what is the biggest fear? That's the fear. That's the biggest. What they may like most difficult is the police violence, more so than the violence from the client. So there's a crackdown against prostitution from time to time. The police will raid massage parlors and hair salons where this woman, working girls, where they work. And so under this system, it's called custody and education, there are just too many opportunities for police abuse and women to be abused.
We should elaborate a bit on it, because in the West, when you talk about prostitution, the police and the government sees itself more as an ally of the prostitutes who are suffering from organized crime and other problems. In China, it's the government who is the problem.
Yes, and personally, I understand that personally, I do understand the benefits of legalizing prostitution, for example, to reduce the crime, reduce raping, trafficking women, better protection of sex workers' health. But honestly, in China, as long as a country calls itself a socialist country, it will never legalize prostitution. So some experts in China have called to establish a red light district, as in other countries, for the similar reason, as in Holland, for example. But realistically, I think that's just not possible. I think to decriminalize prostitution is more realistic. And to start with, we should abolish this system called custody and education. As I mentioned, I spend lots of time with sex workers and working as a volunteer at an NGO dedicated to help sex workers. So I get to know many girls, and I heard so many horror stories. One of the women told me she got arrested during one of the raids, and she was beaten up, and until she lost consciousness. After she lost consciousness, the police put mustard into her nose to wake her up. Another woman threw up, and the police forced her to eat her own vomits. And so to get away, to avoid to be sent to this labor camp or the custody and education center, this woman often have to pay bribes, and sometimes paying bribes as well as sleeping with the policemen who interrogated them. So I would say under this, because this system, custody education system, is very similar to labor reforms through labor law system, as infamous as a law system, which means the woman can be sent to the labor camps without any legal procedure. So there are just too many chances for the police to abuse the power, women to be abused. So it definitely should be abolished.
And you think the Communist Party can sell that to ourselves, because there is an ideological problem. They are very much against prostitution. They will never legalize it, and they still have to diminish the punishment.
Yeah, I think in China, it is regarded as one of the social evils, together with gambling, drug trafficking, human trafficking. So it is against the so-called China's socialist civilization, spiritual civilization value. So the government try to control it, if not wiping it out. So the women's sex workers' rights are not their priority, unfortunately. And another thing is, under this system, women, it's because they have to get confession after the girls. So they beat them up, and the condoms is often used as hard evidence. So to avoid that, women often swallow up the condom. So in this way, either they swallow it up or they try not use it. So it's really increased the threat of AIDS and putting women at a risk. So for all many reasons, I think this China should decriminalize and prostitution. In fact, some experts have lobbied the government. I'm not sure it will be addressed in the near future. But I would want to one of those people who call to abolish this custody education system and eventually decriminalize it.
Yeah, but because let's finish with that. One of the reasons that the governments in other countries are actually allies of prostitutes in a lot of cases is because of the threat for public health, the sexual diseases.
Yes,
What's the attitude of the government towards? Is it? I guess it's a problem because nothing is being done on it. What's the government doing to prevent sexual diseases?
As I said, the government has different priorities. They do worry about the spread of AIDS and other transmitted disease. In fact, STD also have been rising. But under such a system, police raid, this custody and education system, it reduce the condom use. So unfortunately, but this is probably the government priority is try to control it and crack it down. And they probably have to look at it more carefully and consider the rights of the sex workers as well. And SD, that among which group is increasing really fast is among the older men. Apart from the high risk group, among the ordinary people, the older men, among also STD and HIV also increasing because some of them probably felt they missed some fun, and they want to, now they also have some money, so they visit sex workers. Sometimes they have unprotected sex.
Okay, thank you very much, Lijia. I think the end of the story is it doesn't look very bright on any change of a government policy. Government has a few more problems on its dish, and it doesn't seem to be that important for them. But thank you for now, and we will switch to a next.
Let's put a positive ending. I think it's they are aware of the problem. I think there are some positive changes. For example, before condoms, condoms are not allowed to be advertised, and now this control has been relaxed.
Okay, at least there is some good news there. Thank you, Lijia, and talk to you next time.